I mean, you guys both kind of admitted in your own ways. Like, look, I have one boss. You have infinite number based on customers, but it's outside of that. It is somewhat similar. Being able to set your terms, like when do you want to work? I want to work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, stuff like that, or the hours of the day, or you can choose which customers you want to have as your boss. Those are definitely perks. And, you know, making money is all about what you put into it, right? You can make 100% of the profits or 100% of the losses, depending on what you're putting into your own business. And corporate is a little more structured. Your paycheck's guaranteed to a certain point because no one's job is indispensable. I don't have a job. I mean, let's face it, Tom's got a very specialized job. He's fortunate. He's probably indispensable. So he's got a job until he tells them to fuck off. I don't. But at the same time, I do have that job. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's there. So
I mean, how difficult, because I remember when you did your first switch, which was sort of, what's the word, like it just kind of, it happened that way. There was an opportunity. And
when we left South Florida, we moved to Central Florida. We moved, put the kid in school. You're familiar with that. Put the kid in school. Yep. Laura had a job, and I started looking for a job. And I was like, I'd be applying to everything I could find, and I was like, not getting jobs. I would even get most of the time, I wouldn't even get an interview. And I was like, okay, everyone's always said college education is the way to go. That's how you're going to get a job. And here I am with a college education, not being able to get a job. So they opened a Home Depot right there near us. And I went and applied for a job there. And the guy told me, listen, you're overqualified. And I said, listen, I can do everything you guys sell in the store. I was brought up like that. If the job is good, I'm not going anywhere. Exploit me if you think I'm overqualified. I don't care. So I should have put on the resume some high school instead of I have a college degree. So I couldn't even get that job. And
that's a topic when I finally itself, did find
it. So when I did finally find a job, the company that hired me, they had 3 engineers. They hired 2 more. And then they didn't get a contract they were supposed to get. So 3 weeks to the day, the last 2 guys in were the first 2 guys out the door. And they're like, sorry. So now I'm back going, fuck, I can't find a job. Why do I, why did I go to all that school and I can't get a job? So I was about to just take on any job I wasn't struggling so much because Laura had a job, like I said, and we sold the house in South Florida. So, we were comfortable enough that I could take some time. And in the meantime, I did a few odd jobs. I flipped a few cars. I always had the cars and parts thing going in the background. So my stepdad left the company he was with and he says, hey, you want to start a business? So I said, sure. What do you got in mind? So he's been in communications his whole career. And he's like, let's start a comm company. So I was like, all right, well, I don't know anything about comm, but whatever, I'll figure it out. And he's like, yeah, you're an engineer. It'll be easy for you. I'll show you the basics. You run with it. You're super organized. It'll be fine. So 2 men, a van, $2,500 each. And we started hitting the pavement. We printed out flyers, ads in the newspaper. Yes, I know I'm dating myself. But, we did all that stuff looking for business. And the first few months was rough, man. I didn't see a paycheck. We started in October and I didn't see a paycheck till like the end of January, I think, or February. And it was like this minuscule little paycheck. And we started building from that. And then that thing took off to its own, that took its own speed. But then fast forward, we were doing that. And it was 10 years, I believe it was 10 years. And then we had the opportunity to go overseas. And I was like, I'm kind of tired of the comm thing. It was getting very repetitive. We had built up the company enough that it was no longer just the 2 of us. We were less owner operator and we had a couple employees. So we had less, we still had to do some of the work ourselves, but we also had some employees. So it was, a small company. I think at the time we had 2 or 3. Can't remember.
Okay.
So we were doing that. And then like I said, it was getting repetitive. Well, I got hurt on the job, minor injury, but enough that I was like, I don't want to get dumb hurt and then end up crippled or something. I fell into a fucking pile of light bulbs. Some moron paying minimum wage was taking down those fluorescents and laid them all on the ground instead of taking them out to the dumpster. And we were on a job site. I had my safety glasses, my hard hat, my steel toes, and I backed up. And I swear, dude, it was just like a cartoon. You step on them, they're round, and your feet are doing this, and you fly down. Well, I fell into them. Cut myself here, man. It looked like a crime scene because your blood's under pressure in this area. Sprayed the freaking wall. Everyone was freaking. I'm like, no, I'm fine. A little bit of pressure. So after that, I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready for something a little different. And then opportunity knocked, We took it 2 years overseas, came back, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do something else. And my stepdad at the time, the company kept growing while I was gone. I sold him my half and he kept running it. And he's like, I need your help. And I'm like, okay, fine. He is like a second dad to me. I would never say no to him. So no problem. I went to work for him. Well, as a couple of years being an employee for him, I said, listen, I can't be here anymore. I either need to come back up here or I need to do something else. So he's like, well, I might be ready to retire. Why don't you guys buy me out and you guys run the company, me and my wife. So now I'm back owner operator again, except now I had 6 employees. So we took that on for a few more years until the corporate position came up. And what it is they told me, listen, we're canceling all your contracts because we're going to do an in-house team. So I said, okay, so I need to, start thinking, how do I want to rebuild the company? Because that customer got so big that I ended up, as they always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I kind of had no choice. If I didn't take all their work and focus on them, they get another contractor and they split the work. Well, I don't want anybody else in my house, right? So we took all their work, and when they pulled the jobs that we had, they said, look, we're not starting these. We're going to do them in-house. Now I had to rebrand, right? So I'm like, okay, it's been 14 years. I'm not going to start, beating down doors, handing out flyers, starting, all that nonsense all over again. A lot of the customers that we used to service on the regular had now started in-house teams, or they had folded, or whatever the case might be. So it was literally restarting. So at that point, they offered me the job, so I took it, and that's when we made the next switch. At the same time, excuse me, luck would have it. She won't mind if I say it, but my wife got diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. They caught it quick, and that all cleared itself up. But I know we've talked about this before, especially Tom brought it up, is thank God I had insurance, right? It really helped.
Yeah.
And then right after that, COVID hit and everything shut down. And being a small business, I probably would have lost the company because at that point, nobody was doing any work. Everything shut down.
Right.
So I had two, not that I'm superstitious, but I do think every turn has its merits. And it just worked itself out that we did make that decision and it worked out. So now it's been 8 years back on the other side of the fence. And here I am,
close to the 10-year mark.
Yeah. 10 years, exactly.
Getting the itch. So, well, did you love what you did when you were working for yourself doing the comm business?
So at first I liked it. I liked the design of saying, okay, I walk into a space, I'm going to dumb it down. I need to run a cable from A to B. How am I going to do that? Figure out pathway. Is it pipe? Is it tray? Is it hangers? Like all the ins and outs of low voltage. And I enjoyed that aspect. And then in the comm room, how do the cables get into the cabinet? How do you land them, the layouts? And not that I'm a stickler for rules, but I like to set a standard. Okay, if this is the standard I'm going to work by, then everything after this will match that kind of thing.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to reinvent the wheel every single time because the work is the same. The materials are the same. It's just your presentation, right? And so I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. There was some jobs, mind you, that I'm like, I don't want that job. I will bid that job higher than anybody else. So at least if I get it and I hate it, I'm getting paid good for it. And let me tell you, there's some jobs that I bid that I'm like, there's no way they're going to pay me this like $200 an hour type.
Everybody else probably did the same thing.
And I got the fucking job. And I'm like, I don't want this, but and my wife being the person of reason would be like, but look, we're making good money on this. I'm like, yeah, but I hate it. So for the most part, I did enjoy the work. Managing the team. I mean, managing employees is the same, whether I'm doing it privately or corporate, it's the same. You still have people, you still got to treat them right. You can't always tell them, hey, why are you being stupid? They don't, that just doesn't work. But that part is the same. People are still going to test the boundaries just like kids. That doesn't change at all. Like there's some rewards to that. You treat people well. Good people who are worth a shit they'll respect that. You build that professional courtesy. So like the 1 year that we took a trip to Italy, and it was one of those like almost like a tour for like 20 people or so, and it would overall between flights and everything, it's almost 2 weeks. So we went the first week and I set up everything. The team was working and we managed them from over there. That's difficult given the time zones and everything going on. I'm like, yeah, this is a pain in the ass. So we told them for the second half of the week, we said, listen, everybody's off next week. We'll pay you. Stay home. Do whatever you want. And sure, that came off the bottom line for us. But at the same time, the employees were like, oh, shit, I got a free paid week. It doesn't come off my PTO. And then for us, we got a break, right? So you only had to answer a few emails from any of your customers that were asking questions. You can answer that, which is easy to do. So there are those kind of challenges, but for the most part, yeah, it was enjoyable. And up until my first, all right, I had enough, I need a break. But then when I came back from Dubai, I jumped right back into it. So
yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad.
The reason I ask is, I mean, well, this Castle Customs being like officially its own business now will be like the second business that I've ran, but the first, as much, it sounds to me like I enjoyed that first business as much as you enjoyed your comm business. Like it wasn't what I thought that I've been put on earth to do, but there was bits and pieces of it that I enjoyed. Right. And it was way better, at least by my definition, than it was working for someone else. But then, see, I think there's a difference between doing your own business, like that's almost like stage 1, but then like stage 4 or 5 is like doing your own business and doing something that you absolutely enjoy more than anything else. Like it is the thing that you would most likely do all day if you were retired. And that's the thing. Like, well, Lewis, you were texting me the other day because you were flipping out the seal on the front of your Kenny Bell blower. And like, I guarantee you sure, there was probably moments where you're like, shit, I need this, or I don't have that. I got to make something work. Like there's always those moments, but like, could you imagine doing anything else with your time when you were doing that? Or did you enjoy every second of it? Like from a 10,000 foot level?
I understand exactly what you're asking. And it's difficult to say because during all of this on the side, I was still doing my hobbies, mostly the car thing. And for a lot of years, it wasn't just Fox bodies. It was Fox bodies and Volkswagens. So I had a 3-car garage, and it was like, this is the shop space. This is the Volkswagen. That's the Mustang. And then somewhere in there, the Bel Air was crammed in the back. But so there was always that car thing happening. So on a good day that we hustled, and I pick up the kid from school, we come home, we do homework, whatever, and then I'm out in the garage on the weekends, between house projects and stuff like that. I'm in the garage. So there was always that going on. And a lot of times while we're at work, we're driving around, I'm looking I'm on Craigslist while we're out looking for what's available. And we're like, hey, Steve, stop over here. We're going to hit this on the way to this and go look at our car. So, half the time I would buy it and I'd be following him around to the job site until we got home with said car or parts. Or we were in.
So with that said, I'm assuming that this was probably at a time where the company was doing fairly good.
Yes.
So you were almost like supplementing things. So let's pretend the business was struggling.
Mm-hmm. 2008 was a really bad year.
Yeah. So like, would you have still had the side hustle and the fun of that aspect, or do you think that would have helped upbring? I'm just curious on this balance, because it's almost like the scale of, you had something that was fun with it, and obviously cash is flowing, it's probably more fun than cash not flowing. So like, how much weight did you have in both those scenarios, a struggling scenario and a we're doing good scenario?
Struggling, I use that a little bit. I'll use that loosely, because when the business was slow, and through all of this, there was a very brief period that Laura didn't work, but she've always worked because she gets bored sitting around doing nothing. She's like, I want to work. And she likes to travel, which we didn't do a lot of when the kid was little because of logistics. But as the kid got older and we traveled more, so she's like, well, we both work. We'll say pseudo struggling, because it's not like I was like, fuck, I'm rewinding the clock back to when the kid was born and I'm eating peanut butter and jelly and ramen noodles every day because it's all I could afford. So thank God I wasn't back to that shit and working 2 jobs. But the hobby side, enjoying tinkering in the garage, whatever, kind of paid for itself by whatever I bought or sold. You know, I had a place 35 minutes up the street from us when we moved to Central Florida that the guy told me, yeah, those Mustangs always just sitting here. Any interior you want's $100. So I'd ride up there and pull an interior for $100, throw it in the back of the pickup truck and come home. And, you know, who wants a dash? 300. Who wants this? You know, another 300. So I turned that 100 into 1,000 in no time. And that's but money that we didn't budget. So our jobs paid for all the bills. And this was money for frivolous things or for a future trip or, you know, one time when the house we bought needed windows. So I went and flipped the car and I'm like, okay, here's the cash. Where's the window guy? You know, that kind of shit. So it's difficult to separate it so defined, like,
right.
Because in the meantime, I'm still having fun pulling parts, you know? I mean, Steve and I were on a job and we stopped at some random junkyard and the guy had 2 Thunderbird turbo coupes there. And he's like, yeah, those have been here for a while. I'm like, how much you want for the rear ends? You remember? Those are the Cobra diffs, right? 4-lug disc brake. He's like, $75 each. I'm like, sold, no problem. So the next day we were coming right back down there to continue the job. I brought my compressor with me. It was one of them horizontal tanks with the 2 wheels on it, kind of looks like a pig. And we're wheeling that thing out into the freaking junkyard, and it had just enough air to zip those rear ends off. And we threw them in the back of the van, went down the street, finished cabling this guy's office, went home with 2 rear ends. So you just, you're still working, but at the same time, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then Steve was kind of my gearhead, my stepdad. So through all my shenanigans, he's having a great time. So, he never was like, oh, forget this car shit. We should be pulling cable. He was like, let's go.
Right.
It works.
So maybe almost like tricked you into thinking that you were living the dream, so to speak. Like, I don't know. I guess this is a tricky thing to break down. And I know, Chris, you were kind of trying to, right? With the whole, like, imagine yourself in a shittier situation.
But you're right, though. It does give a little bit of a illusion. Like, would I have liked to said, okay, I'm done with the com thing and do the other thing full time? I like to build stuff, whether it's like I like woodworking, I like building cars, restoration stuff. I enjoy all that, working with my hands. Would I have liked to have done that full time? Yes. But would I have been able to churn out something to sell and bring in money in a timely manner? If it takes me 6 months to restore something or build it to sell it, well, what am I doing for income for 6 months, right? So you'd have to have a platform to launch off of, kind of like what you're doing now. You sold what you could sell, you had some money to sit on to launch your business, right? And then now you're launching, you have some customers, although that looks like you're drunk in the background. So you have your customers and now you're working, right? And you're bringing back that revenue because your business is taking off. So that part was a little bit difficult. And then, at the time and for a lot of years, it just was difficult to say, okay, I'm going to switch that yet again to do that. So I've talked about it more recently. And my wife's willing to support it. Like, she always jokes with me, is like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I don't know. Because I couldn't tell her specifically. So that's why she's like, if you want to do something, start it on the side. And then once it takes off, switch. She's like, you can't just switch in the dark. And I'm like, no, absolutely. You got to have a plan.
That is good advice, which I think both Chris and I in our own individual interviews talked a little bit about that. I know, like, from my perspective, I was trying to show, I guess, whoever was listening at the time and or Tom, who was interviewing, that, if you look back on your life, you're going to have all these individual little wins, some bigger than others. Those are probably the ones that are the most important to, like, hone in on and appreciate and understand, because those are the things that I think help prove to yourself that you've got the balls to do these things and you're capable of doing it, versus like, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, well, remember when you remodeled that bathroom and you didn't know what the hell you're doing? You're not a contractor. You're not whatever. You did it, right? And you got to kind of like own that and be like, yeah, I figured that out. You know what I mean? Or I don't know. There's guys out there that have never taken the intake off their 5-liter and they just decide one day they're going to do it. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, kind of got a little bit of swagger now, right? Like I know what I'm doing. It's those little wins.
Yes. Start small. Intake good. Yeah. Disassembling your T5 bad. No. Start small.
Right.
And then
don't start rebuilding the T5. Yeah.